Hi, welcome to the 13.4 kickoff for the distribution team. I'm Larissa Lane, I'm the product manager for distribution. I'm going to be working off our scheduling issue today. This is the link. It's a team task issue 684. And in here, I've got listed out the top product priorities for 13.4 and links to relevant epics and issues for you to follow along. So first thing I'm going to talk about is our progress on adding support for Postgres 12. In the past couple of milestones, we added Postgres 12 and validated upgrading from Postgres 11 to 12, and also using Postgres 12 with Postgres clusters for failover and replication. So the last little bit of work we have remaining here to fully support Postgres 12 is to validate it with our Helm chart. And we've got a couple of issues related to that scheduled for 13.4. After that, we'll be taking a break from Postgres work for a couple of milestones until 13.6, which is the release in which we will default to Postgres 12. And just as a reminder, Postgres 11 will continue to be supported until GitLab 14.0. After that, 12 will become the minimum required version. Next up, we've been doing some really great work on supporting running GitLab on OpenShift. So we've been working very closely with the Red Hat team. We meet with them every 2 weeks. And they have been progressing work on the GitLab operator. The most recent things they've been working on there are adding support for backing up GitLab and upgrading GitLab with the operator. On our side, we've been doing some investigation into whether we can have the operator use the Helm chart, and things are looking really positive there. We did some great investigation into that and found that it looks like something that we'll be able to do. So in 13.4, the focus will be a bit more evaluation of replacing hard-coded objects in the Helm chart with dynamic ones, which will help support being able to use the Helm chart. And the benefit of that is that instead of having a third project being the operator where we need to add support for new GitLab features, we'll just be able to add that support directly to the Helm chart like we do today, which will mean that we won't have a potential lag in feature parity in the operator. Next up, we are going to be doing some more work on our cloud native maturity. So we've got the cloud native installation as one of our categories, and currently it's in the viable maturity level. We have an epic, this epic here for moving it from viable to complete. We were working towards a target of October to reach the complete maturity. We are blocked on supporting pages in the Helm chart, and that work, there's quite a bit of work being done there to use object storage for pages. So that work is not looking like it will be completed until next year. So we're moving the target for our complete maturity out to mid next year. We think that we'll still be able to complete the majority of this work by October and just have the pages component, the last remaining item. And once we do get all of the things checked off except for pages, we'll start work on moving the cloud native install to the lovable maturity. So we're not going to sit around and wait for pages. We will continue to make progress on the maturity. So there are two things related to the maturity epic that we've got scheduled for 13.4. One is adding support for smart cards. And once we get that support in, that will be one of the few remaining known limitations of the Helm install taken care of. The other one is we're going to be working on some better documentation. We have an epic in the maturity epic that is for streamlining the chart documentation. So in this milestone, we will be adding documentation for the values and usage of the mailroom chart. Next, we did a proof of concept for encrypting the passwords in the GitLab configuration file over the past couple of milestones. And we've got an MR in place. It's been going through maintainer review. And in 13.4, we'll be looking at what the next steps are to close that work out. The Orchestrator tool. So this is the tool that automates the deployment and configuration of GitLab at large scale. And we completed the MVP for the Orchestrator a few milestones back. The MVP was let me just switch over to the Epic. Oh, here we go. So the MVP was targeted at our Geo team and enabling them to quickly spin up a scaled instance of GitLab with a Geo secondary side. So that included 3 console nodes, 3 database nodes, 1 application node, and support for a secondary site. We have been spending a lot of time over the past few weeks defining what alpha will be for the Orchestrator. So alpha is going to be still for use by internal teams and not for production use, but it will be a tool that can be used by our professional services teams and our support teams for testing features and troubleshooting customer problems. We have quite a few issues scheduled for this 13.4 milestone that are part of the Alpha Epic, and they are mostly themed around efficiency improvements for how the Orchestrator runs. So for example, ensuring that the Orchestrator is idempotent. So for example, if you run the Orchestrator a second time and you've already, before running it, you already had a license assigned to the instance, when you run the Orchestrator again, it will recognize the license and won't try to assign a license all over again. The other theme for 13.4 is to add support for the node types that are recommended for the 2000 reference architecture. So I mentioned the node types that were included in the MVP. In the 2000 reference architecture, we also have things like load balancer, Redis, Gitly, and a monitoring node. So we'll be adding support for deploying these node types with the Orchestrator. And finally, we are migrating GitLabcom over to Kubernetes. This has been an incremental project. Traditionally, we managed GitLabcom with the Omnibus installer, and we are migrating one component at a time across to Kubernetes. This is a really awesome opportunity for us to identify some limitations of using the Helm install for very large scale deployments. And we are identifying areas of the Helm chart that could be problematic in those large scale deployments as we're working on the migration. So we will continue throughout the entire migration process to prioritize any of those issues that get identified, and we do have some of those issues scheduled for 13.4. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward to talking to you next milestone.